Okay, Mr. Kevork, starting from Al-Akhbar English newspaper, which is Lebanese, of course, with this headline, translated from the Arabic version, Egypt, a brief account of Morsi's first year. The writer Saif Dana said that after a year of Mohammed Morsi occupying Egypt's highest office, a chorus of criticism directed toward his presidency is rising from all quarters ahead of mass protest against him on June 30. Honestly, the last time such numbers were seen on the square was during the revolution in 2011, which saw the toppling of Mohammed Morsi. Was that a shocking image to you that it's been repeated now with a newly elected president, if we can say?
It wasn't shocking for me. During the revolution of 2011, which toppled the President Hosni Mubarak, it took them several rounds of protests until they first chant that people want to overthrow the regime. But this time, from the first day, they were calling to down with the regime, because we have to see the circumstances and the conditions that led for this protest. First of all, the economic situation is very dangerous in Egypt. The Egyptian government is in a serious debt, and it owes a lot of money for Gulf states and a lot of states. I have a lot of numbers here that Qatar provided $5 billion to the Egyptian government, Saudi Arabia $3 billion, Emirates $4 billion, and even Turkey. And Egypt turned from an influential regional state into a state which has in debt to a lot of countries. And these countries, they don't give you the money for nothing. There are a lot of conditions, especially on the foreign policy affairs. That's why the Egyptian government now is dependent on those donors who are giving them the money. This is the main problem.
But also now the opponents of Mohammed Morsi, on the other hand, they say that even if Egypt is facing an economic debt, the man is not given enough time to decide whether he's capable of saving the country. I mean, a year, it's not enough to evaluate. What's your opinion on that?
1 year is not enough to evaluate him, but 1 year is enough to see that the situation is deteriorating. You have 300% increase in homicides in Egypt, and also you have a 12-fold increase in armed robberies from the end of the revolution. So when the Ikhwan government ruled the country, the situation deteriorated. It never became better. Now you have a very serious fuel problem. These people need the basic needs like fuel and food and this stuff. If the government is not able to provide it, and they are not in war. We are not talking about Syria. Let's say that if it's in war, you can make some excuses. But the government that is supplying with gas, this government which is supplying gas to the Zionist state, is not able to provide fuel for its own people. This is a very major issue.
Yes. Now, to say also the truth here, even those that decided or even organized the protest that took place on June 30, when asked, they said that, well, we did not expect that massive number of people would join the rally. These were shocking crowds that we've seen. We never knew that amount of people are criticizing Mohammed Morsi, even the Muslim Brotherhood's path. Here, is that to that extent the Egyptians are even angry from what's going on here in the government, in the Egyptian government?
I was in Egypt last month, and I was asking especially the Islamists there about their opinion on the government. Even the Islamists are angry on the government.
They have criticism?
Yes, those who elected Mohammed Morsi are now not pleased with the policies of Mohammed Morsi, especially in the internal affairs. For example, the last speech, Mohammed Morsi blamed the outsiders and conspiracy for failing of his policies. But he has to take the responsibility at the end of the day, because you appointed these ministers and you brought all these officials to the government without making your opposition also participate now. So you have the National Salvation Front, and now you have the campaign called Tamarut, or the rebellion. These people were preparing for this.
Organizers.
Yes, when I was there, these people were distributing a lot of papers for the people in order to prepare themselves for future protests. They were raising awareness. So this protest didn't come from one day to another. They were preparing from last month.
One of Egypt's leading journalists, Mohammed Hassanein Haikal, put it recently in a television interview. Morsi committed 3 disasters in the past 3 weeks, each one capable of leading to the downfall of the regime. Here, is it only the lack of the economic depth that we're speaking about that actually kept Morsi in that awkward position, that he's not able to save the Egyptians or even give them a stable and well-financed life? Is it only the economic section here that we're speaking about, or his foreign agenda? Because here, according to Mohammed Hassanin Haikal, he's claiming, or he's even saying that there are 3 disasters that happened in the past week, and these are the disasters that led to these rallies and these demonstrations. So are we only speaking about economic depth here?
Yes, as far as I remember 2 incidents happened in Egypt. One of them cutting relations with Syria, while keeping it with the Zionist state. This spread a lot of...
This is the step that caused the outrage, if I can say.
It's one of the factors. It's one of the factors. One of the factors. The main factor which led is the absence of social security. Okay. The people are exposed to a lot of robbery and crimes happening, and no one is taking the responsibility to bring security to these people. We remember the killing of 3 Shia or 4 Shia worshippers in Egypt, and President Morsi didn't ask for any kind of
investigation.
Yes, investigation for it. The second, as I said, the cutting relations with Syria.
They were Shia clerics. They have something to do with that.
Yes, especially the criminals were Salafists, and they are part of the government. So you know how to bring these people into justice. But he didn't mention anything about it, and these people also outraged the people of Egypt about this incident.
Does that mean that he has proven to be the president of a certain sector inside Egypt?
He tried to repeat the example of Erdogan by appointing himself a president on his supporters and on his sect. But even inside his sect, now you have a division, and a lot of people, because the majority in Egypt are Sunnis, and you have now 22 million people signed in the Tamavud campaign, or the rebellion campaign against the President Morsi, and most of them were Sunnis. And this is the problem now. It's not about Sunni Shia, but it's the problem of Mohammed Morsi, who wants to appoint himself a president on his only supporters, just like Erdogan. This is the problem of the Islamists.
Okay, but there are also some kind of criticism going to the Muslim Brotherhood here. I mean, by criticizing them and saying that they are banning other religions inside Egypt. They are banning social life that they are used to, the Egyptians. For example, they banned the ballets in the schools and the universities. There are certain things that they were banned. Egyptians, to say the truth, they were afraid of one day, because, and that's why they asked many questions here, whether the Muslim Brotherhood would be able to give equal rights to the other religion, Christians, and speaking about Shia inside Egypt. Does that path also, the distinguishing between different religion, played a pivotal role in the anger that happened inside Egypt?
You don't have any laws that's targeting these people, but you have on the social level, some segments are trying to target these people, Christians and Shia, and these people are not not going to trials. This is the problem here. The justice is not only by laws, but by implementing these laws.
Definitely.
So you don't have any implementation of these laws to bring these people into justice. When a group of people, 100 or 200 people, come and kill 4 or 5 Shia clerics with sticks, we never witnessed such incidents even in the barbarian eras. So when you have a lot of videos circulating on YouTube and every in all the social media websites, and none of these people went to jail, here now we need a revolution. Revolution not against, because these people are Sunnis. No, we have to bring revolution against those people who are bringing injustice to their own people, because the Shias are also Egyptians. Now, this is why my criticism always goes against the political Islam in Egypt and in Turkey, because these people are doing a political system that will embrace only their own people.
And that's what most of the Egyptians were petrified of, to say the truth. In this regard, Haikal specified the president's handling of opposition plans to hold protests against his regime, the way that he has dealt with Ethiopia's bid to build a major dam on the Nile, and his recent rally appearance sense in which he cut off diplomatic relations with Syria. So these are most of the reasons here. In order to speak about cutting relationship or diplomatic relationship with Syria, who forced him or who even encouraged him to take that step, in your opinion? Is it a step that is made from the Muslim Brotherhood?
We have to see the coalition of Mohammed Morsi. You have the Salafists and you have the Muslim Brotherhood.
Yes.
Mohammed Morsi cannot rule without the Salafists, and he has to please these people always. And these people, Salafists, are the same ideology people who are fighting the Syrian government.
Yes.
Cutting the relationship with Syria is not in the national interest of Egypt,
Yes.
of all the Egyptians.
And even Hosni Mubarak did not even take that step.
It's only in the interest of the Salafists. That's why he cut the relations with
please
Syria.
the Salafists.
Yes, and we have to remember that President Morsi, he got most of his government money from Qatar. And Qatar is in a state of war with Syria in one way or another. So the Egyptian president is not an independent leader, and he is now under the mercy of other states. It's really
so that decision proved that he is politicized, if we can
definitely politicized.
If we can say. Heikel's sentiments were echoed by Hassan Nafa, a prominent professor of politics, noting that the president has lost his political sense, particularly in his irresponsible appearance at an Islamist rally in support of the Syrian opposition, which he declared cutting off diplomatic ties with Damascus. And of course, here speaking about contradiction. Today, both have come to the conclusion that the president had failed completely to anticipate crises and take measures to diffuse or resolve them before they explode. The problem is not only with the strategic disaster which such a decision represents, but with Morsi giving official cover to dangerous sectarian slogans that were repeated in the presence of the leader of the largest Arab country. Can we say that there is no chance, if Morsi was given the chance by his own people to actually place reform, or his image has been demolished completely with all these negative steps that he's taken, starting from cutting diplomatic ties with Syria, or even dealing with the domestic issues inside Egypt?
Look, now we are witnessing the rise of the Egyptian army role, and some people are saying that the army will do a coup d'etat. I don't think so.
Yes.
But there is something called soft coup d'etat. The soft coup d'etat is to enforce President Morsi to declare either a referendum or in early elections. In both cases, Muslim Brotherhood will fail in the future elections, because now you have 51–52% of the people, of the Egyptian people in the recent polls, are against Mohammed Morsi, even his supporters, inside his supporters. The only way now to make Egypt survive is early elections, because the Islamists during the last decades were in jail in Egypt, and these people are very hungry and thirsty for power, and when they are now in power, they will not give up.
Yes, I wanted to comment on that, because I've seen a comment that you've written on the social media, on your personal page on Facebook, saying that I advise the Egyptians not to demonstrate, not to rally, and not to answer, wait for the early elections. What are you afraid of here?
I'm afraid of a Syria-like scenario, because these Islamists will not give up power.
Are we talking about a more dangerous era than what happened with Hosni Mubarak?
Yes, I remember the Algerian experience when the army tried also to do a coup d'etat on the government. Now in Egypt, if the army wants to make this soft coup d'etat or even a military coup d'etat, they have to do it in agreement with the Salafists. Without the Salafists, these people have all the means to fight. If you have only 15,000 Salafis who have weapons, you will have a Syria-like scenario, because these people will fight a guerrilla warfare inside
so we're talking about
areas.
A civil war that can happen, or a
that's what I'm afraid of, because I don't want Egypt to experience what we experienced in Syria. If the Egyptians agreed upon an early elections, it is good, but to make President Morsi step down without an agreement for future government or elections, this is a disaster for
Yes,
for
and that means we will be hearing like all these sleeping cells that we're speaking about inside Egypt, Salafists, will be like up again and then like fight the other normal Egyptians that are from the Shia or even from the Christians for the sake of Morsi.
for the sake of, not for the sake of Morsi, for the sake of power. These people now are in power, not only Morsi. Their officials are in the ministries and in all the governmental chairs. Now the problem in Egypt is that the President Morsi wants to keep his power. But also the opposition on the other hand has no program. What's their political program? This is my criticism today.
Exactly.
They're only, what makes them together is their enmity with, against Mohamed Morsi. This is not a political program. What they are proposing for, what difference will they bring for the Egyptian people? How
the first step is sign petitions, and I hear another big, the question they face now is how a fashion political strategy that can rival the organization of the Muslim Brotherhood. Exactly. So here the first step they signed petitions saying, but that is not enough.
Not
they
enough.
Have to have
how will they solve the fuel problem, the food and subsidies and everything?
And they should have an alternative.
Sure, but they don't. They didn't present anything. I was watching the protests in the last 2 days. They are only calling for President Morsi to leave. This is the same thing happened in Syria. The opposition wants Assad to leave without presenting an alternative. You can't make a revolution without a political program.
But then again, some people would say that, well, in Egypt, the opposition, while trying to topple Hosni Mubarak, they did not have a clear agenda, but they succeeded in toppling Hosni Mubarak.
And then failed after succeeding
by picking up Mohamed Morsi. So therefore, they should be having a clear agenda.
And they have to have a leadership for these protesters. You can't have a revolution without a leader. We have a revolution in Iran, a revolution in South America. All the revolutions that happen, you have a leadership and you have a leader or an idol for this revolution. But when you have a vacuum of leadership, the alternative will be much worse than Mohamed Morsi. This is my expectation.
Okay. It is worth noting here that both Haikal and Nafa argued for giving Morsi a chance when he was first elected and have written as much on more than one occasion. Today both have come to the conclusion that the president had failed completely to anticipate crisis and take measures to diffuse or resolve before they explode. What's your expectations of Egypt, Mr. Kevork? Will we see more aggressions, more demonstrations, more rallies, more bloodshed inside Egypt?
I expect further the escalation of the situation in Egypt, but if Mohamed Morsi is a clever president, he has to announce a referendum to stay in power for example, 6 months or 1 year. But during this period, there should be a transitional government to join the opposition inside this government and to bring justice, fuel, food for the people, because these people revolted against the President Morsi because they need, even as you said, the Nile problem, because of water, food and fuel. These people need justice here. If President Morsi wants to save his country, he has to bring the opposition into power as well. He can't rule the country alone, because when you have 50% with you and 50% against you, you have to make these people contribute in the political life.
And can we say that part of the reason behind these rallies and demonstrations is the Egyptian recent foreign agenda and foreign policy towards Middle Eastern countries, whether the way that Mohamed Morsi promised to resolve the Palestinian case, and instead we've seen that immediately or directly the opposite, exactly the opposite of what he promised, or even his foreign agenda towards Syria, and we've seen the latest move that he made.
After the revolution, Mohamed Morsi closed the borders with Gaza, and he further exploded all the tunnels that was
so used for smuggling weapons.
Transferring all these aids to the Gazans there, and he was the president who cut the relations with Syria. It's shameful to see Egypt in that reach to this level. We remember
these also caused an outrage.
We remember Egypt as a regional power. We remember Egypt as an Arabist country that supports the Palestinian cause.
Okay, Mr. Kevork Almassian, thank you very much for your analysis. Thank you for being with us. Dear viewers, that's all the time that we have. Thank you for watching.